All right, so we should be recording now. All right. So again, I apologize for the delay and thanks for sticking around. And we're going to try to move pretty quickly. We've got a lot here tonight, but I'm going to try to stick to under an hour. So again, thanks you guys for coming in person. Thanks, Brandy, for being here by Zoom. And thank you to all of you that are going to be watching it in the recorded version. So we're going to go over some things, just general kinds of orientation things for the year, and some things about easy club management, right? To kind of help people because it gets overwhelming sometimes and there's a lot happening through the 4-H year. We're trying to develop more programs and more activities and events and experiences for kids. So we want to make sure that everybody has the support they need to kind of move through the year. So first off, I don't know if you guys have, I know Tom still needs to do his training online. I don't know if the rest of you have, but it's really important that before we meet with any youth that we've got that volunteer re-enrollment done and approved. So that's just at 4-H Online. We're not going to spend any time on these screens. These are the instructions if you need them. Again, this will be recorded. You can get them here or I have them available. I can email them directly to you. But it's just like in past years, you go in and re-enroll the same way you have in the past at 4-H Online. One thing I wanted to mention, if you are what you would consider yourself a project club leader, when you're picking your role in your re-enrollment, pick club leader and not project club leader. And I'm hoping that will fix some of the issues we had last year with club leaders and project club leaders not being able to access their club roster on 4-H Online. And if you don't know how to access your club roster or you don't know those steps, I will get those to you as well. It's a pretty simple thing. You've got a little code. We need to go in and find that code for you and get it to you. But if you've had it in the past, it should be the same because it doesn't change. It's a specific identity for the club. So again, these are just the screens for that. Again, here on step 3, pick club volunteer, club leader, so that we can access the club roster. I was told that's what will help that little problem we had last year, and hopefully it will. If not, we'll explore reasons again. All right, we're going to move into the bulk of what I wanted to share with you today. There are tons of resources online at the 4-H Indiana 4-H website. And this is one of them. And I put them out in the volunteer updates that I do. I try to do every week-ish, but that's slowed down some with not having a summer helper anymore. But I sent one out last week, I sent a reminder out today. And I always have the links to the resources that are on the website. And this is one of them. And I wanted to just kind of dig into these because I'm sure, people don't know what's there. They've not explored through what's there, but this is pretty valuable. And I wanted to share that. So I put the QR code up here if you want to dig deeper into this series of videos. It's a series of videos, and I'm just going to hit the highlights with you today. So this is 4-H Easy. Right? Trying to make it easy for you. Lot of stuff here. And so you guys here in person, I gave them a packet. Brandy, if you want this packet of information, I can get that to you, but it's also available at these links if you want to just get it digitally. But I do have some extra copies if you want to pick some up. Again, the resources you have in front of you are just, if you want to use them, use them. If you don't want to use them, don't. I want to make it easy for you. If those examples of things are good, then use them. If you're like, no, this is junk to me, it's not going to be helpful, then just toss it. That's fine. So like I said, it's a series of videos. And so we're going to go over the tips that are in the first 3 videos. And then in another training, I'll do the second 3 videos. Okay, but there's basically some practices that kind of make your life easier as a club leader. And it's important to keep in mind some things. The first is easy doesn't mean low quality. We want to keep that good quality interaction with caring adults and our youth interacting together. So it doesn't take away from the effectiveness or the quality of what we're doing in our work, but it just makes our lives easier, right? It's just, things to kind of help us. And it's important because I know different clubs are at different levels. We have some clubs that are older, a lot of older kids. We have some clubs that are mostly younger kids, right? So work at the level of your club. If you've got lots of young members, right? Maybe you're going to need to support those young officers a little more, right? And allowing them to get the experience they need. If you've got high school members, use that, right? Put them in places of leadership in your clubs. And multi-level adult volunteer support. And basically that means, and in the packet you have, that's the top sheet, right? The example in the videos, those folks have 3 leaders in their club. We don't have, that I know of, any that have active 3 leaders in a club, but I'd like to have at least 2 in every club. And what that means to make that effective is defining those roles between the 2 of you. So if you have a co-leader, for instance, making sure that you know who's responsible for what. You can draw your parents in on that. And maybe that looks like a rotating co-leader, right? The important thing is, if you're going to use your parents and they're going to act in a role other than just being a parent of a child there, then they also need to have the volunteer approval process done, right? But it's not a bad idea. If you have some good parents there that want to be involved, but they don't want to commit to a whole year, you can kind of rotate them in and out, and that's fine. But just work with them on defining what those roles look like. And again, like I said, you've got lots of resources in front of you. I like number 2 that I put here. Don't try to do all the things, right? Pick what works best for you. And easy, usable, effective is what's going to be most important. And that may look differently for different club leaders. All right. If you have questions at any point, stop me, because I don't like to just, yes.
Okay, so if the parents do the training, do they have to sign up in 4-H online as a club leader?
So
Just do the training and not.
So what I would tell them is I think there's a club, like just a club volunteer role, and that way they would not have access to the roster and all that other stuff that a leader might have access to, but it allows them to attach themselves to a club and then be, help work with you. But yeah, they need to enroll. It will ask them for a role. And without it being in front of me, I don't remember what all the drop down menu says, but I think there's one that just says club volunteer. Okay. I can try to look that up for you. Anything else? Did that answer for you? Okay. All right. So the first thing, the videos are divided into kind of topics, broad topics, and then tips underneath them. There are 12 tips in total, broken down under 4 different topics. So the first one is developing a culture for youth involvement, because we want to make sure that if we're developing youth leaders, we allow them that time to practice the leadership, right? That we aren't doing all the work in the club. It's better for them, and it's certainly better for you guys, right? You don't want to have to do all the things, right? So again, consider your club size. So you might have a small club, and that might mean everybody in your club has a chance to be an officer or some sort of leadership position or whatever that looks like for you. I'm not picky about officer type things. Some clubs don't have officers. Some, have been very creative. And that's one of the tips, actually. Be creative. Step outside the box from just your normal president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, right? You can have all kinds of different things. So that's really important to make sure that you're keeping those kids, though, involved in that leadership. Tip 2, involve youth in the club decision-making process. And there's lots of ways to do that, right? There's all kinds of cool ways. And you've got some handouts there that talk about the SLIP process. And that basically is invest in some little Post-it notes, right? And then you give every kid 3 or 4 Post-it notes. They can be different colors, they can be different shapes, make it fun, right? And when you're brainstorming ideas, everybody will have a chance to have input. So you may get ideas that are very similar, but they've still had the chance to have their idea heard. Whereas if you're shouting it out, and this works too, right? It does work, but if you're shouting, letting them shout out and brainstorm in that sort of typical way, then if somebody says something, then somebody else is like, oh, well, that's what I was going to say. So now I don't have anything to add, right? Using the Post-it note method gives them some of their ownership, right? Some of that ownership of what's happening. And what that might look like is, oh, wow, we have 5 Post-it notes that have very similar, the same thing. That must be really important to us. So we'll go with that, right? Another way to do the same thing, and I think that's on your handout too, is the dot polling. It's called dot polling, and you use those little dot stickers. And have you used it before? Yeah, I love it. We use it for our when we have our advisory committee meetings. You know, we put the papers up along the wall. So you get the big newsprint papers, put them on the wall. You put you know, let's say you're trying to brainstorm ideas for fundraisers, you know, so there's a line for every fundraiser, and the kids vote with their dots. And if you give them 5 dots, let's say every kid gets 5 dots, and they really think this one thing is important, they could put all 5 of their dots on the same thing, right? Or 3 dots or 2 dots or however many you decide to give them. But it's a way of, again, allowing every person in that room to have input. So even those kids that don't like to speak up, even those kids that are a little more timid, have a chance at having some ownership in your club. So we just want to remember youth-led, adult-guided, and that they are taking ownership, and that creates that greater connection and that feeling of belonging that sometimes can not be there if they're not allowed that input. And then tip 3 under developing a culture for youth environment is provide those opportunities to speak in front of a group. Do any of you guys have require demonstrations or encourage demonstrations?
Required.
Yes. So yes, Brandy, I do love the SLIP idea too. So yeah, you require them. I don't know if Brandy, I know you've had kids doing demonstrations. I've seen pictures of it, but I don't know if they have to. But I think that it's a good idea to encourage every kid to do that. And you're going to have some kids that's really painful for them. Work with them, right? Maybe they don't do a traditional demonstration. Find out what they're good at, what they like, what they enjoy, and work with them on figuring out a way to share that information.
Sometimes it's nothing more than a show and tell.
Yeah.
For the little kids.
Yeah.
That way they speak.
Absolutely. So yeah, and again, that would be based on their age and stage, right? If they're younger, they're not going to have that full-fledged outline on all the things, which you should have a copy, right, of recommended demonstration suggestions. Again, that's just a resource. You don't have to go by that. But that's one thing you can do is get them all involved in those demonstrations. What's good about that, right? What's good about having them do it in their club is that really helps them to break out of that, right? They've had that positive experience in front of a friendly crowd, right? And they're not going in front of strangers. But then that next step might be to take part in the public speaking contest or the demonstration or, whatever it might be, which is a little more challenging for some kids. But if they've had that positive support and positive feedback, and I would even go so far as to encourage the members that are watching, Make sure they're clapping for them. Make sure they're giving the positive feedback. Make sure maybe even ask for some positive comments. Again, you could use the Post-it notes for that if you wanted to. Be creative in how you do it. Is that how you?
And then if the kids don't have any questions, I ask questions so that they have something they can say.
Yeah.
And then everybody claps one.
Yay. Yay. That's great. So I know. So. Yep. So yeah. So Brandy tries to do 2 demonstrations at each meeting. That's great. That's great. And again, they can be very simple, right? And so that's what this is talking about down here. Simple opportunities, right? And so there was a great example in this video of roll calls. So a lot of times, and I don't know if you do this, but I remember doing this when I was a kid in 4-H, but you have something for roll call and it's like Thanksgiving's coming. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food, right? So they would stand up, say their name, and my favorite Thanksgiving food is sweet potato casserole, right? It's real simple. They know their name. They don't have to move in front of the group. They just stand up and they can share something about themselves. So it's a lot less intimidating, yet it's sort of easing them in to talking in front of their peers. So I love that one. And then there are also the formal speaking opportunities. So especially as they get older and more experienced, right? We're going to try to encourage them to do some of those more formal things. I would love nothing more, you guys, than seeing our public speaking, our demonstrations, all of that kind of thing, just be so many more kids involved than we have in the past. There's usually a couple, right? I think we had 1 demonstration last year and 2 public speaking kids, and that's fine. They did great. They were all wonderful, but I'd like to see more. What's that?
So they may have opened mine.
I don't know. So I would love to see more of that. And we try to highlight them at that Creative Expo now, because in the past, when we have done public speaking or demonstrations, it was like they maybe did it in front of the judge and their mom, right? We want to give them that audience experience where they can get some of that positive feedback from other people. All right. Questions, comments, anything on these? Okay, is it gonna go? Every time I try to advance the slides, it wants to give me a problem here. I wonder if my batteries are a problem. How about? Oh, come on. Lead a club, it works. All right. I don't know why it's not. It says it advanced here. Brandy, what are you seeing? Are you seeing the same screen, or did it advance for you to tip 4?
Yes, I still see the same one.
Okay. I am not sure what's happening here. I apologize. You know what? I wonder if it'll just let me, I may just show you my, it did not help me. Get up there. I don't know what's going on. Brandy, are you seeing Lead a Club That Works?
Yes, I can see it on your screen.
Still, or do you see my Zoom screen?
Um, I see your, I think it's your Zoom screen.
Ugh, okay,
I can see the slides off to the left, so.
okay. All right, I'm just, but you can see the slide that says Lead a Club That Works.
Yes.
All right. We're gonna go with this because I don't know what's happening. But you guys might need it bigger. So let's see if I can get it bigger. All right, try it this way. Okay, so Lead a Club That Works. So this is talking about designating that responsibility among the members and their families, right? We want to make sure their families are involved. And we like to also try to remember to include caring adults, simply because not all families look the same. Lots of kids are living with grandparents or other family members. Lots of kids are maybe foster kids, or some other situation that's not traditional. So we want to make sure that if we have we're not sure what their family situation is, that we're referring to their caring adults, because we, if a child has been removed from their mom or removed from their dad's home, that might be a really sensitive issue for them. So that's just something to kind of remember when we're talking about that. But meaningful group activity that has full participation by all members, right, is really important. So we talked about the brainstorming and how to get everybody involved there. But another great example on a different type of activity, one of the examples in the videos, the club invited, for instance, a firefighter in to talk and give a talk about the firefighting career, and some question and answer and that kind of thing. Well, that allowed that whole group to have a little more base on what firefighters do. And then as a group activity in a future meeting, they did holiday cards to all of their first responders in their community. And they had a little base knowledge to make those cards more meaningful. So it allowed even their youngest members to be able to write something meaningful to the firefighters or police officers in the Christmas cards that they sent. So some sort of group activity like that allows everybody to participate is excellent. Getting those adults involved. Sometimes the adults, I don't know, tell me what you guys have found. Do you have grown-ups that want to get involved, or they seem kind of timid? Good.
We all play together.
Good. That's awesome. Brandy, do you have a bunch of parents that are wanting to get involved, or do you have some that kind of hang back?
I think about 95% of us are pretty involved. It's like a big
Good.
family.
Good. Oh, I love to hear that. That's wonderful. As something to try to pull in maybe some of those families or those caring adults that may kind of want to hang back a little bit. In your packet, you've got what's called an interest inventory for the parents or families. And that gives you an idea of where their interests lie and where you might be able to tap them for coming in to do, some sort of presentation on their career, or maybe they can help with a robotics project, or maybe they can help with, cooking the snacks for whatever, but you have a better idea that way of where their talents lie. If they're being a little bit timid about speaking up. And you know what, if they say no, they say no, but it's always good to encourage and let them know that they are welcome and you want their participation. And one thing too to think about, because sometimes people are a little hesitant, right? And this happens to us all the time. People will volunteer for things and then they don't show up or they don't follow through or things happen, right? Life happens. So I'm sure you guys know the old adage of always have something in your back pocket, right? So some sort of leader bag or a binder of games, or just a crate with the things you can pull out if plans go awry, right? And usually the kids don't even notice, right? They just want to do something fun. So not to be all bent out of shape when plans fall through, because they will, right? Nothing ever goes as planned. I'm not sure I've ever had anything go 100% as was planned. So being flexible is very important. And again, that's a piece of getting those adults involved in a meaningful way. And tip 5, be creative with how you use your officer teams. I mentioned earlier, some clubs don't even do officers, and that's fine. And they maybe rotate those leadership roles amongst all the club members, especially if it's a small club, right? If you have just a few, you can have them taking on different roles through the year, and that gives them experience in different places. But thinking outside the box and expanding those officer positions. So another example might be, you've got a young person who is, you recognize leadership potential in them, but they're a little bit hesitant and they probably don't have the experience to be the president or the vice president, or maybe they're too young really to be the treasurer, to have that kind of responsibility. But the things like the game leaders or the song leaders or any, you can come up with any kind of officer role that fits what their talents are, right? So if they're a good activity leader, maybe that's it, or whatever that looks like. Or a reader, maybe they like to read, right? And that they are happy just reading, certain things. That might be their role. So don't be afraid to think outside the box and expand those roles that are available for leadership within your club. Do you guys have any kind of outside the box officer?
We tried one year doing big kid, little kid.
Oh, yeah.
There was A big president, a little president.
Yeah.
Our little ones kind of.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
We tried.
Try that. Yeah. Well, that could give them a little taste of something, right? Okay. So then the last tip here, it talks about a kid-friendly meeting environment. So just like with adults, right? Just like with you guys, we're trying not to make the meeting too long, right? Because we lose attention. In your packet, and you all have probably seen this before, there are 4 or 5 different versions of a meeting wheel that I've seen before. The one I put in your packet was attached to these resources here. I have a much simpler one that I like even better, and I think I've given that before in volunteer trainings. But just how to sort of divide up your meeting time so that you're not going way over time on things like reading your meeting minutes and going over a treasurer's report and all the things that are important in learning how to run a proper meeting, but that can get a little boring and tedious, especially for your younger ones. So they suggest even getting through that scripted meeting pretty quickly. And you even have a script. I think there's even a script in there that I pulled off the resources from this particular video. And especially for your young officers, if you have a lot of young officers, a script to get through a meeting, it can be really helpful. So they don't have to remember it all. They're not going to forget any piece, and that everybody has a chance to be heard. And then I like this one too. And we did this, this was perfect. Last night in junior leaders, this is exactly what happened. All the junior leaders sitting around this table, and we adults were just kind of hanging out back here, just kind of offering our support when needed, but we let them run their meeting. And we have some inexperienced officers and junior leaders right now. And so they would turn around and ask a question, okay, you're doing fine. Yes, you can go that way, or maybe, maybe try this, so just be that support for them, but it's important to let them have that ownership of leading the meeting. All right. Questions on any of these before I go to the next slide? Comments? All right. All right, so here's that QR code again for the videos. We will do in future trainings cover the rest of these. And here's what is coming. So taking it beyond the business meeting. And these are ones I love because I love to get those kids involved in things outside the borders, right? I love taking kids to 4-H band and chorus. I love sending kids to 4-H roundup. I love getting kids involved in the junior leaders area-wide events. So we talk about some of that, talking about project experiences within your clubs, right? If you do any of that, service learning. I know all of you guys do service learning. Field trips, right? Are kind of fun. I don't know if any of you've ever had one of your meetings. Well, you almost do a field trip every time, right? Because you're there in the quilt shop. But those are the kinds of things that we will talk about later. And then this one, and I think I'll probably spend some time on this because I want you guys to start defining what it means to have a successful club for you, because that's going to look different for every person, right? And it may or may not be how many kids are coming to meetings. Does it have to be, is it a successful club if you've got everybody there every time? Maybe not. If they're not doing anything that's showing impact in their community. Some of the best clubs have the busiest kids, right? That can't get to regular meetings. So they're doing things club related, but maybe they're not at a meeting, right? Maybe they're doing other things with the community service and in different ways. So I want to do some work on what that means, because some people get frustrated that they're not getting kids to show up to their meetings, but they're having kids doing things, right? And being active and effective and showing impact. And that's the most important thing. Are we impacting the community around us? Are these kids impacting the community around us? So that'll be in a future meeting, in a future training. Like last year, I want to try to have at least 2 more trainings, probably one deeper into the winter and then one in the spring. Last year we did risk management as a topic because I had some people ask about that. I want to finish this next time. And then if there's any other topics that volunteers want for training, let me know. And we can kind of dig a little deeper into those things that you all are interested in. But again, lots of resources on the 4-H website under volunteer resources. So feel free to dig into those. What questions do you guys have? Did you want to ask any more questions about the re-enrollment process? Or are you guys all good with that? Because I hated to spend a lot of time on it when it's probably something you guys have all done.
I made it through it yesterday, and if I can make it through it, anybody can.
Okie doke. Okie doke. So anyone that's watching this on the recording, if you need more instruction on the re-enrollment process, get a hold of me. Office numbers 829-5020 or my email jlabril@purdue.edu, and I am happy to help you. I'm going to stop the recording now. Stop recording. Here we go.